Nathan's Kingdom, it's a dark fantasy coming-of-age drama about a young autistic man named Nathan struggling to survive his life's hardships, with his younger sister, Laura. And despite, social services getting involved and them wanting, a better life for them, they see it as a breaking apart of their family. So they escape and look for a fictitious kingdom that they had come up with as a coping mechanism as children, because they grew up in an abusive household. But they actually go out and try to find this fictitious kingdom that they created when they were kids in hopes that it would basically correct their lives as adults.
Why did you create Nathan's Kingdom?
I wanted to make a film that was a collage of everything I love, of every movie that I grew up with, The Never-Ending Story, The Lord of the Rings. And in doing so, I wanted to tell a movie about a journey, because I feel like, we're all on this journey. And one of the things that I've been blessed with is hiking in the backcountry of the Sierras of California. And when you do that and you're on your own, your mind just starts to enjoy these adventures. And I wanted to bring these adventures down into a form of cinema. If you can imagine a creative mind having all these ideas and all these passions, all this love, and you funnel it down, I wanted to figure out, well, what does that elixir become? And for me, it became Nathan's Kingdom.
I heard you self-funded the film.
Yeah, self-funding, it's a tricky phrase. My wife and I, we did mostly fund the film. At the same time, we were able to get people together for this cause. And then me convincing people, like, hey, we're going to cast someone who's on the spectrum. And then people wanting to join that cause. And so I was able to raise thousands of dollars, not just through online platforms, but through a nonprofit. And the nonprofit, if it wasn't for them, I don't think I could have made the film. I believe that it was fate that this movie was made.
If you had to give people a 1-minute education about understanding people on the spectrum and understanding autism, what would you say?
Another person with a different personality, different walk of life, which is all of us, right? We're all walking our own path. They're walking their own path too. Of course, I'm not going to lie. There are people who are lower on the spectrum who need support, who need family support, who need, unfortunately, if they don't have family, government support. Even someone who's higher on the spectrum, they're going to stand out for whatever reasons. Maybe they dress differently, maybe they behave differently, but just because they're different from how you think or how you're dressed doesn't make someone to feel awkward around or feel that person might be dangerous. So just keep an open mind, use your common sense, try not to judge too much based on what past lack of education may have given us as far as who we think these people on the spectrum may be.
Welcome to Compassiviste Dialogues. I'm your host, Ali Horiat. My goal in this program is to educate our audience about various global social issues and on how we can help. Today, we have Olicer Muñoz. He is the producer, writer, and director of the Autism awareness film, Nathan's Kingdom. He is an AFI grad and has worked on many award-winning projects, which we'll hear from in a moment. First of all, welcome to the show. And how long have you been a director and involved with film?
Hey, Ali, thank you for having me, giving me this platform to talk about filmmaking in the autism space, and especially right now when autism is more in the focal point, being that it's Autism Awareness Month. I first started, taking myself more seriously as a director when I began my career going to college in film school. I went to Chapman University Film School, now known as the Dodge College of Film and Media. And from there, I decided to refine my craft by getting my master's at the American Film Institute. And I got my master's in directing film. So I would say you take it quite seriously when you decide to get a bachelor's and a master's in the subject matter.
Yes, that's a definite career choice there. It wasn't a hobby. So you're pretty much in love with this, right? You knew you wanted to do this.
I think when you become a filmmaker, you don't just take it on as a career path. You take it on as an identity.
Right.
Because you decide that for the rest of your life, you're going to be a working artist. And as a working artist, it's not the easiest path. So it definitely becomes a part of you.
Okay. And since graduating, you've worked on several projects. Have you worked on any projects that you're particularly fond of when you were in school that were really passion projects that kind of led you through your master's? And I ask this because I've done a few masters myself, and I found that at that higher level of education, it was less academic learning and more passion learning. Like I was really passionate about my research paper in, say, my philosophy masters, and so it was something I spent hours at the library because I wanted to, not because I had to. Whereas in the undergrad, when I was doing economics, it was more like, oh, I have to memorize these things and get them done technically. So where did that lead for you in your masters?
That's a really great question. Well, for my undergrad, I was definitely trying to find my voice, forming my voice. Like, who am I as a filmmaker? What subjects do I find passion behind? And while undergrad at Chapman, I wrote and directed a film titled The Papelero, The Paperboy in Spanish. Interestingly enough, it was a coming of age film about a boy who wanted it all, but couldn't just get it. He couldn't grasp it all at the same time. And what does all mean? He wanted to live on the hills. How does he get there? Well, he thought he needed the best of the best education. Well, then how does he get that? Well, he did it all the wrong ways. Trying to date the dean's daughter. And I tried to create a little bit of a Romeo and Juliet story with Papelero. I also wrote and directed a film titled Silent Soldier. Part of my history, I went to military school, and then I ended up working at the military school, and I became friends with a couple of Marines. And so I came up with an idea of telling a story about two snipers taking place in the Vietnam War, going head to head at one another. And then when you're alone with your own thoughts, thinking about your family, I would believe that one would start thinking of and questioning, well, what are the motives, not just behind, the motives behind what you've been sent out to do, but the motives behind life. And here in Silent Soldier, that film in my undergrad was a reflection of humanity. Why are we out here? Why are we going after each other? Both those films in undergrad got nominated for Best Picture, two of my films out of 5 for my graduating year. So I almost took up half of the slots. And then AFI, for my graduate, it was very, very different, because then I knew how to, as much as a student can learn, right, without finally going out to the real world. I thought I'd learned what it was to make a film. And so there it was more about refining my craft. You talked about, sitting in the library, trying to learn as much as you possibly could. For me, it was honing in, directing, the theory of directing. There was a lot of psychology behind it, and building a character, building an emotion, and ultimately taking these emotional words that we put on the script and projecting them onto a screen, what we now call cinema, or at least what we used to call cinema.
Amazing. And the reason I ask that is I think people should understand an artist's life and work a little more than the products that we see on the big screen. We see the lavish lifestyle of certain celebrities, and then that's all we see. We don't see the work. We don't see the heart. We don't see the input. We don't see the effort. We don't see how much you have to learn and know. And like you said, the psychology of it and everything else. So it's kind of more important for me. Compassiviste is an art-based movement. And for us, the reason why we started it that way is every movement, every change in the world, every message comes through the arts first. It's never through any other means. It's always an expression. It's always a thought first that gets expressed in some medium of art, right? Whether it's, a general standing on a hill giving a speech that's so powerful that it moves his army, or whether it's Romeo and Juliet, sending each other poems, or whatever it may be. It's an art form that builds that situation. So, and here you are, when you were talking about Silent Soldier, to me, it's like, hey, that's today. There's so many parts of the world today that are actually, shooting at each other for no reason. And so it becomes a timeless effort of your expression. Now, since school, you've worked on a lot of projects. Tell us a few of the ones that really mean a lot to you. The proudest ones.
Of course. I think a lot of people can empathize that, after school, you get thrown into the real world, and no school, no amount of education can really prepare you for what it is to, work in the real world, do what you love, and have it be sustainable, meaning it's going to take care of you. It's going to take care of your family. So a few years out of school, after I had used up all my resources, because I was working full time for myself, writing, developing, pitching to major networks, I'd gotten broke. But I was fortunate enough to get my first industry job with Arnold Shapiro. Arnold Shapiro, he's a famous documentary filmmaker. He has an Academy Award for a documentary that he had produced called Scared Straight. And he had a TV production company, and I was fortunate enough to become one of his producers on shows like Beyond Scared Straight, which went on for many seasons on the A&E network. And so that is something I'm very proud of, to get to work with Arnold Shapiro and to be part of his legacy. I think everyone needs to work for someone and to understand what it took for that person to get to where they are. And so it was under sort of his umbrella of projects that I got to produce on that I started writing and developing Nathan's Kingdom, which then became a decade-long journey to get this film developed, written, rewritten, get the money put together, and then make the film, and then go through post-production and then distribution.
And speaking of Nathan's Kingdom, which we'll get to in a minute, but one part of the backstory, I heard you self-funded the film.
Yeah, self-funding, that's it's a tricky phrase. My wife and I, we did mostly fund the film. At the same time, we were able to get people together for this cause, this one-of-a-kind cause of telling a story about a brother and a sister, the brother being on the autism spectrum, and then me convincing people, it's like, hey, we're going to cast someone who's on the spectrum, and then people wanting to join that cause. And so I was able to raise thousands of dollars, not just through online platforms, but through a nonprofit. In a nonprofit, if it wasn't for them, I don't think I could have made the film. And also, industry professionals donating their services, donating their equipment. And these are companies that everyone knows, like Technicolor. They gave us an incredible opportunity to finish our film through Technicolor. And so we had incredible resources, an incredible team that I feel funded the film as well with their resources and their knowledge.
But essentially,
so it was a group effort.
It was a group effort, but it was really a group effort from the heart. I mean, everybody pitched in what they could, and everybody kind of came and said, "Here's what I have. I'm putting it in the middle here. Just use it as will," as opposed to how much a contract that you're hiring space or you're hiring equipment.
Of course, and they're much more committed to it. And maybe they were scared for me. Because they saw me. It's like, okay, here's a young filmmaker. He has a wife who's fully committed to him, but he's also having a family, and he's the sole income earner for his family. So he's got to take care of his family, and he's self-funding this movie, and he's really passionate. We better help this guy, or something bad might happen.
and it's beautiful that there are people like that, right? It's beautiful that there are people like that. I was
going for it, Yeah.
You weren't going to quit. That's lovely. No. Now, why did you create Nathan's Kingdom? Where does the autism fit in with you? What's the personal attachment of parts of the film, the brother and the sister, the autism, the escape, but all those things come into play?
Right. So I think, first of all, it's important to talk about, well, what is the film about? Like, what is this movie, Nathan's Kingdom? So Nathan's Kingdom, it's a dark fantasy coming-of-age drama about a young autistic man named Nathan struggling to survive his life's hardships, with his younger sister, Laura. And despite, social services getting involved and them wanting, a better life for them, they see it as a breaking apart of their family. So they escape and look for a fictitious kingdom that they had come up with as a coping mechanism as children, because they grew up in an abusive household. But they actually go out and try to find this fictitious kingdom that they created when they were kids, in hopes that it would basically correct their lives as adults. So where did this film come from? I wanted to make a film that was a collage of everything I loved, of every movie that I grew up with, The Never-Ending Story, The Lord of the Rings. And in doing so, I wanted to tell a movie about a journey, because I feel like, we're all on this journey. And one of the things that I've been blessed with is going, hiking in the backcountry of the Sierras of California. And when you do that and you're on your own, or you're with a friend, but you're really on your own, your mind just starts to enjoy these adventures. And I wanted to bring these adventures down into a form of cinema. So if you can imagine a creative mind having all these ideas and all these passions, all this love, and you funnel it down, I wanted to figure out, well, what does that elixir become? And for me, it became Nathan's Kingdom. And I think, Ali, I think you had mentioned, why autism? When I was developing this project that was going to define who I am as a director, through a feature film, autism was starting to sort of become a mainstream topic to talk about. Mm-hmm. And something compelled me to look into it. And the more I looked into it, the more research I did, the more I felt compelled for one of the characters to be on the autism spectrum, especially an older brother, because I'm an older brother of 4. Ali, I don't know. Do you have siblings?
Yes, I have one sister.
Yeah. Okay. Are you the older or the younger?
I'm the older. Sometimes it feels that I'm the younger, but I'm the older.
Okay. So I think as older siblings, we have some form of sense of responsibility at times, mm-hmm. especially if you feel like you want something better for your sibling. Maybe they're in danger. You have that natural instinct to take care of them, correct? What if you flip that and you're the younger and you feel like you need to be taken care of because your parents aren't there for you? And so you want to look up to your sibling, but that sibling just can't take care of you, no matter how bad you want it. Mm-hmm. If not anything, you have to take care of your older sibling. And I love that idea. And so that's why I made the older sibling someone on the autism spectrum, and I made a lot younger sister someone who had to take on that parental role to take care of her older brother. And I love that dichotomy. And then I started weaving a story around that.
When I was watching Nathan's Kingdom, and I saw that the way how the younger sister takes care of the older brother, it reminded me not necessarily of autism only. It also reminded me of a lot of families where you have inner city youth that the older brothers get involved in gangs, get involved in problems, get involved in so many different things that it leaves the younger sister to kind of be a mother in the house with the more younger siblings, because this older brother is in trouble all the time and she's trying to help him and she's putting food on the table, and real stories of that coming about.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was an eye opener of a movie with autism, and especially because the person playing the role is autistic. So it really makes it that much more interesting to watch, because you're trying to understand what's going on in there as well. But it also extended for me on multiple levels to kind of understand this relationship you're talking about in families, and the blend of it, and how you're right. Yeah. We normally have this hierarchical responsibility, especially in certain cultures. If you go to the Middle East, if you go to India, if you go to Latin America or the Mediterranean Europe, you get that feeling that the older, especially the brother, because it's also that form, it's they're designed more so that the older male is the one who's supposed to take care of everybody else. So you get that, and then you flip that on its head and you see so many aspects of what you were showing. Now tell me how it was working with Jacob
Lentz, the actor who plays Nathan. He's a blessing. It was a blessing for me to meet him. It's a blessing for me to be his friend. And the movie would not have been made without him. And so I believe that it was fate that this movie was made. He and I got to meet each other at a nonprofit organization called the Performing Arts Studio West. I would love people to look up the Performing Arts Studio West, because what they do is incredible. This is an organization that trains and represents actors who are on the autism spectrum on many levels, and actors with Down syndrome, and they train them through the love of this art of acting, and they represent them to get them roles in television and in films. And in going there many times to work with their actors, I got the opportunity to meet Jacob Lentz, and it was just like a bulb went off. Like, this is possible. I can do this. Because of Jacob Lentz, this movie can get made. And then, because once I met him, that was it. I'm like, this movie has to happen, because no one else was doing it. And it wasn't just because, you want to do something because no one else is doing it. It was also because I felt this duty to have to make this movie, because here you have this organization that I believe should be getting a lot more support than it does, a lot more awareness than it does. And here you got these incredible actors, and very little people even till this day know about the organization. So, getting to know Jacob Lentz and working with him, it was one of the best experiences of my life as an artist.
And the fate part is that you wrote this film, and so when you were writing it, you hadn't met Jacob yet. I mean,
no, I haven't.
It had nothing to do with Jacob. I mean, here you're writing a film for somebody that you're going
somebody
to
out
meet
there somewhere,
that you're going to meet.
One of a kind, one in a million.
Right?
One in a million personalities, exactly, in the planet, right?
Right, and it's amazing that you write a film for that person, and then somehow that person says, "Hi, I'm here. The film's ready. Let's do it." So
and it wasn't even that simple. It was. I went a few days. I worked with many actors, some of them in different levels of the spectrum. It wasn't quite fitting into what I was trying to do, and John Pazes, who is the director there, he said, "You know what? There's this one new kid. Brand new guy. He's 19 years old. He's going to come in tomorrow. You should really meet him." In my mind, I already convinced myself, like, oh man, I don't think this is going to work. I might have to cast somebody and be like everyone else and just cast somebody who's an actor, who's going to play someone on the spectrum, which I wasn't a fan of the idea. But I said, okay, John, I'll come tomorrow. And thank God I did. I skipped work, played sick, drove down to the studio, and I met Jacob, and the rest is history. It was, like I said, this movie was fate.
Yeah, I know. When I was hearing the story of you wrote it, and then because at first I was thinking, okay, you must have had being a director, you maybe volunteered at the organization, and
I did that, but after I wrote it,
yeah, that's what I mean. I thought for sure he volunteered, then it hit him, and then he started getting ideas, and then he put those ideas into writing, and ta-da, the movie came out. But then when I heard your story, and it was like, no, he had the film, he had the script in his hand, and he walked in there. So it's kind of like, wow, if this isn't like the universe moving you, I don't know what is. Kind of,
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you mentioned writing. See, I had to rewrite because to be a serious filmmaker, you have to just keep rewriting and keep reformulating your ideas and until it fits and it's just right. Obviously, you have several masters, so you understand the rewriting process and the fact checking and everything that goes into it. For me, my number one resource, aside from the Performing Arts Studio West, which, by the way, that organization, I was able to develop scenes there, work with their actors who are on the spectrum, and see what the true life reactions would be in scenarios through the mindset of someone who's on the spectrum. And by the way, for people watching this, just because you're on the spectrum, it's not just a label like, oh, they're on the spectrum, so they're here. No, think of it as a personality trait. Everyone's very, very different. It's infinite on the manner of personalities that we all have. It's the same thing with somebody on the spectrum. It's like, so I'm dealing with actors with different personality types, and I'm just trying to find somebody who better fits the film, which I did. But my number one resource obviously was Jacob Lentz. And it was through him that, through his honesty and getting his feelings regarding each scene that he's in, which there's about 100 scenes in a feature film, in mine especially, we made those adjustments all based through his real life experiences, as someone on the spectrum, through his ideas and through his feelings. I would rewrite the script, honing in on him as a human being through his personality trait.
And speaking of the film and making all these changes and all, run me through the ton of special effects that are in your film. And again, you said a lot of people pitched in, a lot of people supported the making of this film. The special effects, how did that come about? How were you able to really make this happen?
Right. Well, I was trained under the belief that when you direct a film, you direct it like it's your last. And so you just give it your all. You don't cut any corners. Again, if you take yourself seriously as a real artist, as a real filmmaker. And so with the help of my producers, Michelle Lopez and Emily Beach, we hired a VFX artist, Alejandro Castro, who has worked on some Spielberg movies. And we brought him in as a team member again because he saw what we were doing and he believed in the cause. He didn't need money. Okay, Alejandro Castro, he's a genius, and people see him as that. He's a true artist, and he just saw what we were doing. He's like, yeah, I want to be a part of that. I'm going to pull a team in together, and we're going to figure out this movie together. And so, with my ideas, he was able to kind of hone me in and be like, okay, this is what we can do. This is how we can bring your ideas to life. And also with visual effects, you need an art director, right? And so Adele Satori is our production designer and art director. And Adele, she's like the mastermind behind a lot of the designs, the costumes, the props, really bringing some of this dark genre that I had in my head, this dark fantasy, and bring it on in front of the screen. So. Yeah.
And you know what? I saw a whole bunch of pictures from behind the scenes, and some of them were, pictures where you could see this stuff in, and I could really put them in the place in the film, and it made such a difference for me. So you should share those. You should really share those with people, because I think that makes a difference for people to understand a little bit more.
What it takes, dude. What it takes
exactly,
to make this movie.
I know you wouldn't think about it, right, until you see the rest and you're like, whoa, that's a lot of work.
And for people to understand who are already looking forward to watching Nathan's Kingdom, we filmed in Los Angeles, and the story takes us into the Mojave Desert, and we're shooting on location. One location is the Red Rocks, where Jurassic Park has an opening scene there. And then we keep going, and then we film in a real abandoned copper mine, and we go into this mine. We do all these incredible things. And I'm not going to give away the film, but we just keep going down this path that leads us up to a 12,000 foot elevation location in the mountains. And then we circle back to Los Angeles. We go on a real life journey. We took our cast and our crew on a real life journey. They were thanking me for this journey, because we were going to places that they didn't even know existed. And then they themselves are sort of re-identifying themselves as filmmakers, as crew members, through this process of making this film. It is an incredible journey that people should just spend the 90 minutes to watch.
Oh, for sure. I'm telling everybody I know to watch, because it was powerful. I liked it. And the other thing is, when you look at, the main filmmaking industry of Hollywood, for example, you don't see too much discussions with autism specifically. And a lot of other issues too, whether they're social issues, mental health issues, or even physical disability issues. You just don't see a lot of that, in a sense. And when you do, they are always powerful. I mean, you think of even the huge ones, from many, many years ago. Dustin Hoffman, nobody can forget that role, right? I mean, big movie.
Sure.
And you go further down, Tom Hanks, big movie. You don't forget Forrest Gump. So they just become powerful, because people, I think, you don't have to be autistic or have an autistic child or a family member to get attached to it. It's just something that resonates with humans, to understand more, to learn more, to love more, to be more compassionate. And I think with your film, same thing. It really brings out an understanding, and it's a real life understanding, because again, I'm watching this and I'm thinking to myself, just a few weeks or a couple of months ago, there was a child who was shot by police who was autistic, and the police officer wasn't educated enough to understand what the person's going through, the young, I think they were in their teens. And so this disaster happened, and there's this whole educational part, and, the problems that caused these kids to leave in your film. It really is the buildup to not understanding, to not really, our systems, our healthcare systems, our legal systems are not really understanding the problems and being educated in the right way. And there's lack of funding to this. And I think film is one of those places that brings massive education, and it brings a massive amount of interest, and it grows something, right? The arts generally. And again, as an example, I normally give this example because it's very true. If you go back to AIDS, it was an epidemic that was growing, and nobody was touching it. In the science world, they weren't bringing out the education globally, or getting people to understand. It took Live Aid, the concert, for the idea of AIDS really to
to
prop
bring
up mainstream,
people together.
right.
Sure,
And
sure.
then Princess Diana got involved, and then remember that scene where she shook hands with an AIDS patient, and then it really blew up, right?
It wasn't taboo anymore because it was socially accepted by the right.
So when you make the film and this person makes it and that person makes it, then I feel more comfortable to talk about it. I feel more comfortable to discuss it. I feel more comfortable to when I'm with a friend of mine who has an autistic child, I don't just look the other way the whole time and pretend like I'm not there. Because I don't know how to react. I don't know how to talk to them. I don't know what to say, how to present myself. I'm just
it's a personality trait. I mean,
you
that's
get what
coming
I mean?
from me being and I should be very careful when I say it's a personality trait. I'm just giving my point of view.
Right.
I'm not a parent who's raising somebody low on the spectrum. What I'm trying to say is these are human beings too, and we can't put people in a box as far as what we think or how we think, who they are and how they think. We just can't put people in this box.
Exactly.
We just can't. We're organic and we're ever evolving and reshaping, and that's I guess what I'm trying to say is like it's another person, and not this label. So I agree with you that these films out there, they definitely capture our attention. And, I still believe that, Hollywood lacks this ability to portray autism, and I do believe that, more films need to be made. At the same time, I kind of question it because they can't seem to do it right.
Yes.
And I mean, Hollywood as this general, like, I'm just blanketing over Hollywood because, for me, films depicting autism, are, they're very tricky because I don't really trust the studios to do it correctly because I don't think that they're going to do the homework that we did. They're going to get as committed as we did. And I say this based on, the scripted feature film that we made, Nathan's Kingdom, because, our film stars an actor on the autism spectrum. And their films, their scripted feature film, not documentary, don't star an actor, on the autism spectrum who also carries the film. And I can't, and I've done my research, Ollie. I still can't find a film in the last 10 years, in the last 20 years, till this day.
That's why I mentioned two of the biggest ones,
actor,
right?
And that actor carries the film throughout the entire film. That's scripted, where he has to know his lines, know where to stand, know where to look, know how to act. Who's a trained actor, who's on the autism spectrum, playing somebody who's autistic. Hollywood doesn't do it.
No. Because
and these organizations exist, Ollie. Performing Arts Studio West exists for that purpose.
I know.
But Hollywood just says, oh, okay, put you in the background so we can check that box. Or maybe we'll give you a little B character. Check that box. But no, this organization deserves more attention. Performing Arts Studio West and actors on the spectrum deserve more respect to let them play someone on the spectrum. And for people out there, it's not embarrassing. Like, hey, I know you're on the spectrum. It's kind of on the nose. I'm going to have you play someone on the spectrum. Listen, they are artists. They love their art of acting. They just want to be in front of the camera and do their art.
And you know what? There needs to be more people like you as well, because it's people like you who dare take these projects and make them the way you're talking about it. Because like you said, I could just imagine the boardroom in one of the big studios thinking dollar signs and all the other things. And there's just not enough room for art anymore. I don't call it art. I call it a business.
I've been there.
I call it a business. That's all it is. Yeah. And it's just a business.
Coming from the industry. Yeah. I mean, the American Film Institute, they train you to make big movies. Why? Because they're one of the top film schools in the world, next to USC, Tisch over in New York. They're one of the biggest. And so they train you to make big movies. Because when their students make big movies, it just sort of affirms their organization, right? And so, of course, I took this ideology and I pitched to studios, and I got in front of the suits, and they smiled. They loved what I was doing. They think this is great. You keep doing that, and good luck, because we can't get behind that. Too much risk,
right?
This idea that we're going to put in millions of dollars and we're going to put this investment and lay it on the shoulders of someone on the spectrum hasn't been done. We don't want to put in that kind of risk. So when you asked if I'd self-funded a movie, yeah, I did.
Yeah, that's
Because I wanted to pave that road.
Exactly. Yeah. And the other thing is, we're walking parallel lines here because I actually refused funding from certain people, very wealthy people in the world and organizations, because it affected the long-term plan that I had. And you kind of lose power when you get funded by one person who is so powerful and they fund so much. They could come in any day and say, I don't like the orange shirt, I want it green. There isn't much you can do, right? So I said,
no, they're signing the checks. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? The money talks at that point. So what I decided in Compassiviste, I said, you know what? We're not going to take big money from one person, because that person becomes Compassiviste essentially. What we're going to do is we're going to bring the collective together, just like what you did. We're essentially walking your path. We're going to bring the collective together. Yeah. Yes. And these are people who believe. Each person involved in Compassiviste actually believes in Compassiviste. Yeah. And they put their heart on the table in Compassiviste. And we may all be poor, but what we're doing is going to be exactly like you. It's going to have ripple effects. It's going to make change. It's going to bring education. It's going to bring people from around the world to talk about it. We're sitting here talking about Nathan's Kingdom, and I wouldn't know you if it wasn't for passionate people that are, between us, and how we've met those people. So in a sense, it just comes full circle when there's heart involved. That's what I really want to say, because that's what's important. I think people like you drive that and keep that alive. And, when you get to a point where, okay, I made this film, this is how well it did, this is how it worked, and now I'm making something bigger, now I'm putting my heart behind something even bigger, it's always going to resonate that way until you're in a place where you can make really, big influential and social impact moves with your decisions and choices. And speaking of that, before we get into how Nathan's Kingdom is, going around and being released and what's happening with it, what is the future for you?
Okay, so we're just going to jump ahead on that.
Yes. I want to talk about that first. Then I want to come back to Nathan's Kingdom.
What is it? I wish I had a time machine to tell you those things. I'll tell you what my heart tells me.
Yes.
What is the future? The future is that there will be another opportunity. Hopefully that opportunity will incorporate me. Hopefully that opportunity will incorporate my team members who gave a piece of themselves to make this film, including Jacob Lentz, and the rest of my cast members. By the way, played by Madison Ford, his sister, an incredible actress, and as well as all the other actors. We really got the cream of the crop to get involved with this film. The future would be to make another movie, really, to bring back cinema. I feel that, because after COVID and everything going streaming, there's been this struggle of maintaining cinema where people get together in a dark room, hopefully with no distractions of their phone, and get immersed into a story, and that immersion has lasted for 100 years. So I can't imagine it just going away. Right. But to get to make another movie, TV would be good, episodic, where again, we get to feature someone in the autism spectrum, and to finish this thought about the future. Not to point the finger and say, oh, this person's autistic. That person, someone who's on the spectrum, plays on someone on the spectrum. It's like, no. That's an actor who happens to be on the spectrum playing this role. That's what the future is going to be. For me, I'm hoping. The cast actors on the spectrum, possibly maybe what some would arguably call disabilities. Others say they're not called disabilities or other real abilities. But they cast them not because of who they are, because of how well they do on the screen. And I believe that because I've seen it.
You've done it.
Rooms. I've worked with these actors. I've done it.
You've done it.
They perform better than other actors. Going in the past, because things go full circle in life. Before finding Jacob Lentz, I believe in backup plans. And as a filmmaker, you're also a startup. You're creating this business. It's a startup company, because that's what films are. I auditioned about 100 Nathans. Real big, some big actors, right? And I worked with them to the grind, trying to get them into that mindset of what I believe it should be. Jacob Lentz blows him out of the water. Not for who he is, for him as an actor, because he didn't think about himself as like, oh, I'm an actor acting, and so there, you got these downfalls, and you start doubting yourself. Am I doing this right? Jacob was just committed as an actor, and so going back now to what you were saying is, people who watch Nathan's Kingdom who don't know that Jacob Lentz is on the spectrum tell me, man, that guy's such a great actor. Man, he really depicted autism so well. I don't say anything. I don't tell them that he's actually on the spectrum. Why? Why label somebody?
Yes.
I say, yeah, he is a good actor.
Because he is an actor. I mean, he is an actor, right? So why
he's
take
good
that
in his
away?
craft.
Right.
He's good. All the actors are great on their craft.
Yeah.
I'm not going to label them,
Exactly.
So that's what the future I'm hoping is. Cast actors who happen to be on the spectrum, but they don't have to play somebody on the spectrum. Just let them do their art.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'll tell you a little story here. I was at a mall. This is a few years ago. This is before really the mental health explosion, and autism and everything else. And there was a person working in a store, and she was autistic. And somebody came to me and said, they work really well. And I said, yeah. And I was waiting for the rest of it. And they said, but she's autistic. And I said, you know what this is like? This is like turning around and saying, this cook makes really good, because it was in Miami, and this cook makes a really good French food. And I say, okay, but they're Mexican. And okay, you see what I mean? But what does that have to do with it, right? Do you have to be French to make French food deliciously? Do you have to be Italian to make pasta deliciously? No other person can be an Italian cook because Italian food cook at a restaurant because they're not Italian. It's not true. So to me, it's like when you label people in this way, it's the same thing here. So when you say this person's Mexican, they can't, it's shocking to me that they make such delicious French food. It's the same thing as saying this person's autistic. It's amazing for me that they act as well. It has nothing to do with that. Look at the work, judge the work, and stop judging the person behind the work for the things that is not part of the work. So that cook being Mexican is not part of his work. He didn't say,
no,
I'm
you're
going to come
judging the
here.
food.
I'm going to come here. I'm going to choose to be Mexican. I'm going to make the food that I'm going to present. No, it has nothing to do with that. The only part that this person can be judged on is the dish that they prepare for you. Yeah. So here, Jacob can only be judged on the role that he plays in this film to the best of his capacity. He bombed it or he aced it. It's one of the two, but him being in any spectrum or anything beyond that is neither here nor there. So movies like this, it's not just about the education of autism. It's also us starting to think about, how do we understand people? How do we label them? How dare we label them, so to speak? That's the part for me, because I lived half my life in North America, and I'm not a white American. So I was labeled all my life, in school and other places and everything else. So here it's the same thing for me. I kind of understand a little bit because it's a different kind of labeling, but it's labeling.
Right.
So at the end of the day, it's kind of, what you're doing is giving power to fighting the labeling and the elitism of, segregation in some way and form. Now, going back, as I promised, to the film. Yes. Tell me about the process. So you make the film, right? Because I think the audience wants to know this. A lot of people don't see this. We just show up at the movies. We get a few trailers 6 months ahead of time, a year ahead of time, whatever. We anticipate the film. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, you remember that movie? We love the trailer. It's showing now. And then we go and we watch it, right? Or we see it at a film fest or something like that. You make the film, it's done. You say wrap, finished, you have it on some CD or whatever you guys do. What happens from there? And tell me what happened with Nathan's Kingdom, like when it released, how to run us through that.
I'll give you the short version. Typically when you make an independent feature, you want to do well in the festival arena. For us, the festival arena was mainly North America and Europe. And we did well. The top ones that come to mind, and again, we screened all over the country on the big screens of these film festivals, and we got a lot of positive feedback, emotional feedback. Parents who are raising their children around the spectrum who just come up to me, mothers in tears. That really happened, and they gave me their point of view, their journey, and how this movie sort of reflects them, and that they'd never seen anything that kind of gives them a window of what they're going through and how they feel. So these film festivals give people an opportunity to experience a film and feel special, because they know that at that time it's not screening in theaters and 1,000 theaters. It's more of an intimate moment. It becomes something that's just for them, right? So at the Sedona International Film Festival, that was a big event for us, because that was our North America, or actually our world premiere was at the Sedona International Film Festival. And we won an award there, and Jacob Lentz gives an incredible tear-jerking speech about being given the opportunity to do what he loves and to not judge him for what he's told he is, right? So I encourage people to go into our Facebook. It's easy, Nathan's Kingdom. Look for that, and then you'll look for the Sedona International Film Festival. Click on the video, or just click on our videos. You'll see Jacob Lentz giving a speech on a podium.
And in there, I won't forget, he said, give the opportunity and things will happen.
And they did.
Yes. And I love that sentence from him. Things will happen.
Yeah. Let people work. Let people, practice their passion. Giving them a platform. They'll do the rest. Another big, incredible film festival was the Real Abilities Film Festival, which is going on now because it's Autism Awareness in April. Real Abilities is a huge, well, when I say huge, it's a well-established nonprofit that helps people not for their disabilities, but for their abilities, their real abilities. And one thing that I experienced there was that not only did I get to show the film to an audience, both neurotypical and on the spectrum, but people who from the hearing impaired and people who were blind, they got to experience the film because the film was dubbed and it was also narrated. So if people who are blind got to listen to the film and actually to the speakers, because there's an incredible sound design. If you have surround sound, kick up that bass, you're going to feel it. So they got to feel the film and hear a narration, even though they're blind, and got to experience it. And for me to witness that was, it just felt like I was doing something right for society. It wasn't a selfish pursuit of happiness. It was, no, you're doing this for these people and those people to experience something. And then going back, what do you do with this film? Okay, so we did we did the festivals, we got our accolades. We decided to go with a distributor. At the time, it felt like the right move to go through Gravitas, and it was through them. Then we got to be on streaming platforms like Paramount Plus, which we were on for about a year, but now we're ongoing with Amazon Prime, Peacock, and other affiliate streaming services. So we're easy to find. Apple. You'll find Nathan's Kingdom.
You're everywhere now.
Yeah, domestically. And cool enough, Nathan's Kingdom just keeps on going because this month we did our international streaming premiere. We're now for the first time streaming international as of 2 weeks ago in Italy.
Okay.
So now we're in Italy, and this year we're gonna just keep reaching out to different European countries, South America, Latin America, Japan, and that's all happening in real time this year.
Okay, and let me just ask you a quick question there. Domestic versus international. How are you seeing the autism discussion in the international spectrum? I mean, when you reach out to Italy, when you reach out to Japan, what are the responses? What are you seeing that is like, oh, this is so different than the US?
Culturally, there is a different understanding of what autism is. I think from my perspective, parts of Latin America see autism as how we as Americans saw people with Down syndrome back in the 70s and 80s. It's steps behind on the understanding of people on the spectrum as far as what are their abilities versus what they think they can't do, and so when they watch the film, I think they're just seeing it from a different lens. They're still enjoying the story. They're still captivated by the journey. I think that just what their idea was of what autism is to what they're seeing on the screen are much more different than from us, from more of a Western society being,
Right.
living in America. I think we just see it from a
But
different lens.
are you seeing yourself shattering those barriers?
Questioning. Yeah.
Which
I go to
which
those
is
forums.
right.
Yeah. I see what people type and some of them are like, this guy's not on the spectrum. Acts nothing like on the spectrum. Why isn't he putting his wrists up to his chest? Like really crazy stuff like that. And it's like, I got to type in there. I'm like, hey, I'm the filmmaker. First, they're like, yeah, right. But no, I'm like, I'm taking the time to try to educate people. And you know what? That's okay. Some people, they just weren't, they're just speaking their mind. This is what I thought it was. This is what I'm seeing. It's different from what I thought. So maybe it's a little hard for me to kind of break out of that thought process.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having a little trouble here. So now I'm just expressing my feelings. So I'm not saying those feelings are hurtful to me. It's an opportunity for me to educate you.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's powerful too, when the movie goes international and it breaks barriers because, again, I've lived in Europe and the Middle East, and I know the cultures are very wary of and very kind of reserved when it comes to to autism and even understanding what it is. They just put it in a block with everything else that they don't want to talk about and just leave it there and hide it and just that's it. So it's amazing that you're breaking into this space and opening that up.
Yeah, I mean, Italy is great. We were given the opportunity to stream there through a festival that we won called the Ravenna Nightmare Film Festival. Obviously, our film has some dark elements, so they felt it met their genre, and we won Best Picture there. And it was through their organization that we're also streaming on their Nightmare Legacy streaming site, which people, I guess, who would watch horror films would watch our film. They'd call it more of a dark fantasy, not so heavy on the horror, but they're loving the film. And it's through this organization at the Ravenna Film Festival, Ravenna Nightmare Film Festival in Ravenna, Italy. They gave us this opportunity to start our streaming platform over there.
Okay. And we're talking about this film, and we could be talking about this film as if you just made it. And the reason I say that is we're in 2024. This film is 2010, right?
2020. We released it in 2020. It finished in 2020.
Yeah.
So, but 4 years ago, dude, that's a long time.
Right at the start of the pandemic, right? And we're
it's bananas.
Yeah, we're 4 years ahead of that time, right? And so
it's still going. It's still taking up my life. But that's cool. It's like a child. I mean, really, or like a business that never closes.
Right. But also, I'm thinking, okay, the film comes out, the pandemic hits, and 4 years later, here we are, we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
And before the film's done and, it starts playing, there's 10 years that he's making the film and he's funding it and he's getting people together and writing it and all those things. So we're talking about 14-year journey from the moment that you kind of like said, okay, I'm starting a title and I'm typing a script. Right?
Yeah, sure.
Had you started that today versus 14 years ago, 15 years ago, I don't see that much of a growth in the world in terms of what you did was pioneering there. But look, there's like a whole Netflix, genre, for example. No,
Autism in Love
changed.
is great. Yeah, there's some documentaries that are coming out.
Yes,
documentaries are coming out.
Understanding
that
Autism,
are good,
for example.
Good documentaries.
Yeah.
That celebrate it.
Yeah, I know. I have a friend who's made one as well. But the point is, it's not something that Hollywood is picking up in the arts to kind of bring to the public. And they bring a lot to the public. I remember there was a couple of football movies that came out. And I'd, travel back and forth from North America to the Middle East. And for a whole time, people couldn't even throw football because nobody plays football outside of the U.S. And so, they didn't even call it football. They called it American football. But the point is, after a few films came out, people were invested in the films. So they went and learned the rules. So when I was traveling back now and then for Christmas breaks or something from school, I see people having footballs, and I see them throw, and I see them, they're saying words that they shouldn't know. They're calling plays. Just the sentence "play" is not something that you should understand to know in the Middle East, for example, or in Europe.
Touchdown.
Those words.
First down.
Exactly. Those are not. Those are not words you should know. But I realized they start learning it because of the impact of film, and so the impact of film does that. And if you came together as Hollywood and say, okay, guys, it's on us. It's responsibility. It's on us to educate. It's on us to, give entertainment, give laughs, give horror, give all of that. But it's also on us to educate while we're doing all this, because we have a responsibility on our platform.
You would think something like that is
people
happening.
Like you
and
are
I bet
doing
it
that.
is.
People like you are
and I bet
doing
it
that.
is.
So at some point it is. But what I'd like to see is, instead of, one of you, I'd like to see a whole range of people in different spaces, in different fields. It doesn't just have to be autism. Just bring more awareness, bring more inclusivity, bring more understanding. So the next time, I'm sitting on a train next to an autistic person, and I don't feel, oh, what do I do? How do I sit? What can I do?
You don't feel self-conscious to who they are.
Exactly. You're not sitting there tight, right? You're comfortable.
No, I was there when I first started, volunteering, my time and trying to work with actors at the Performing Arts Studio West. I felt that. And then my wife and I would go. It was before we had our first kid, and we would go together. And even she was like, this is great. This is totally different than what I expected. And it was a growing experience. So we're talking about people growing.
You're right. And you worked with them. So I want education from you. You worked with them for a long time, and with Jacob for a long time in the filmmaking as well.
Yeah.
If you had to give people a 1-minute education about understanding people on the spectrum and understanding autism, what would you say that? What would you say?
Another person with a different personality, different walk of life, which is all of us, right? We're all walking our own path. They're walking their own path too. Of course, I'm not going to lie. There are people who are lower on the spectrum who need support, who need family support, who need, unfortunately, if they don't have family, government support. That's just being honest, right?
Right.
Another honesty is even someone who's higher on the spectrum, they're going to stand out for whatever reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they dress differently, maybe they behave differently, but just because they're different from how you think or how you're dressed doesn't make someone to feel awkward around or feel that person might be dangerous.
Right.
So just keep an open mind, use your common sense, try not to judge too much based on what, past lack of education may have given us as far as who we think these people on the spectrum may be. I don't know if I'm answering your question entirely because it's sort of like a global idea.
Yes.
Like who is somebody? Well, how do you know somebody if you don't get to know somebody?
No, I love your opening of that explanation because it reminds me of, when you go into a meeting sometimes. I used to work in the finance world, and
you feel the room.
Yeah, exactly. 90% of my job was to know how to get this person to be a client. That was 90%. 10% was the pitch, because it was everything that came before the pitch that made them accept you. Before they gotta like you. Otherwise, you can give the best pitch, but there's nothing going on there because they never liked you in the first place. So what you're saying is feel the room kind of thing, right? Which is beautiful because it's exactly saying it in a way that don't look at someone and say they have an issue, and so I have to act this way or I have to treat them that way,
or keep my distance a little bit more than usual.
Yes, or make adjustments and changes so much so that I'm just subconsciously, panicking doing those things. But you're saying, feel the person, understand them, and which I think
is happening more and more. I do feel it's happening more and more. What has changed in the last 10 years? I think an awareness has changed. I think because of social media, there's at least people think they understand. So at least that's a start, right? You read one page of a book, you think you know what the book's about. Right. Hey, at least you got started. At least you took the time to open up the first page. And this means you got a summary on the book. We're going somewhere. And I think, what does the future look like for Olicer and Muñoz? Going back to that, I think being able to support the Performing Arts Studio West, an organization that already exists, right, has all those resources, incredible resources of actors. Well, I think what needs to exist in the future to come is a partner, a strongly funded partner, being like a studio who dedicates itself to producing scripts with actors on the spectrum. But not just to put them in front of a screen, but like to actually tell real stories and give them the opportunity to do what they love to do. And have that be, and give that place a platform for people to watch.
Yeah, and expand their horizons.
Expand their horizons, but because they love the story, not because they feel good just clicking on something, and because like, oh, hey, I really like to show this new platform and having this new studio. They're involved with these organizations. I like that story. I'm going to watch it because of that. And me as a filmmaker, that would be my job, to create stories that people like, that move them, that cause them to, sort of rethink their perspective on things, that make them want to go back to that story and see how it's evolving through different episodes or part 2s, part 3s. That would be my job, But to have a studio dedicated to giving people a platform, that needs to be the future, more so than it is now.
And you know what? To get to that future, studios like this have to come from the heart. And for them to come from the heart, they need to be involved with people who are actually showing and guiding the way in that perspective. So you're doing that. And what I want to tell the audience and everybody watching, hearing, is watch the film, download the most expensive version of the film, because that matters. Because
it's
that
not
matters.
That very expensive. Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, if you can rent it, exactly. That's what I mean. If you can rent it for $2.99 and buy it for $6.99, pay the damn $4, because you know what? Those little $4 add up for everybody.
For the price of a coffee,
right?
Buy yourself a life experience.
Exactly, and then. 100 million people do this, please, so that you can turn around and build that. It doesn't need to be the thought process that we need somebody to come in with this capacity. It needs to be the thought process of, you know what, all I need is the American public. That's it. I don't even need a country the size of China
to come make another movie.
Yeah, I just need the American public to say, we love what you did. We want you to make another one. Here's the crowdfunding space for it. Drop in your $4. All of a sudden, you have more money than you need to make a huge movie. Or
TV series that actually star actors on the spectrum. If you're going to tell a story about people on the spectrum, but you're going to cast neurotypical people, neurotypical meaning people like me and you who aren't on the spectrum, to play people on the spectrum, to me that's a disservice. Like, what are you doing?
Yes.
Like, okay, you feel good that you're telling these stories, but you're not doing it service. It's like defeats the purpose. It's
hypocritical. It's just hypocritical. That's what it is.
So let's remake these enjoyable TV series, but let's do it justice. Let's do the right thing. People talk about doing the right thing all the time, but let's actually do it. I know. And I'm ready. I'm very, very much ready to do it. I think it's just a matter of resources. So,
you know what? At Compassiviste, we're not billionaires, but we have our charity, we have our community, we have people who try to support the things that we're doing. So whenever you're ready, whenever you want, I will be more than honored to just, post what you want to do there on our space and let people use, that one door into helping you raise funds, helping you make the film, help you get people who can come in and support. You never know, somebody's listening or watching to this and they're a producer or they're an executive producer and say, you know what, instead of putting my film in that horror movie with half naked people running around in blood, I'd rather put it here because this matters. There's way too many of that.
It does.
And this matters. So I'm going to come put my $5 million here instead. And you know what? It may open a door. So I'm always available. Please take me up on it because these are the kind of things that make me happy. Being able to be of service somewhere, right? That's all I want to do with my life is be of service. Let's do it. Rock and roll.
Life's short. Let's just do it. Let's rock and roll.
Exactly.
If I can only just add one thing, because I know we both are going to probably start wrapping this up, is people out there, we need your support on this movie. First thing, enjoy the film. Watch the film, enjoy it. Second, it would be great for the film and everyone involved to just share about it. Get on TikTok, get on Instagram, tell a quick little story about it and how they can watch it. Amazon Prime is a great option because everyone has it. or there's other streaming services that you could say. You could say Peacock, or Apple, but Amazon seems to be the best working site for us. And as far as our media handles, at Nathan's Kingdom. You put in at Nathan's Kingdom, you're going to find us. And as far as supporting us through any kind of charities, if you're interested in that, Performing Arts Studio West is in number one. Guys, look it up. Performing Arts Studio West. See what they're doing. I mean, they're doing God's work. Really, check it out. Also, Real Abilities, the film festival that's happening right now this month. If you want to watch some incredible films that have a lot to do with people on the spectrum, who are also, they make movies, they support films where the directors, the writers, the producers happen to also be on the spectrum. Real Abilities showcases their films. So that's happening right now. And you should really, and if you're in New York, go to a Real Abilities Film Festival screening. And that'll be an incredible support as well.
There you go. Nobody could have said it better. Olicer, Muñoz, thank you very much for being here today, sharing your time, sharing this beautiful story. It's powerful. It's just impactful. And this is what Compassiviste is about. People come on here and sometimes I feel like you're a natural Compassiviste because you're an activist out of compassion and you're doing what you're doing that way. So, it's people like you who make me believe every day that what I'm doing is right. And I encourage everyone, like you said, to go and watch the film and, even buy twice if you can. If you can go on 2 different streaming platforms and buy twice, it doesn't matter. Do it. It's you're helping. That's what it is. It's not about just renting it and watching it and saying, oh, it was cool. I'll share with my friends. It's, you know what? I can afford to buy the movie 5 times over. I'm going to buy it 5 times over. And that's how you really get engaged with people. So do that. Watch it, talk about it, share it, as he said. And please subscribe to our podcast channel here and share this episode to as many people as you can so we can get more of these movies out there, movies that need to be out there, films that need to be told, stories that are just touching. And you will find all the links here below so you can go and see the charity, you can go and see Nathan's Kingdom and everything else. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Ollie.
Anytime. And I'm going to take you up on that offer, and everybody here is going to see something we're doing with Olicer in the future. So
let's do it.
We're here to help change the world together, and you are the together side of it. I'm Ali Horiat. Thank you very much.